So, welcome to Steve McDonald's Arts and Crafts. Now, to be able to make this floating cup, you just need a few simple things, and it's a lot easier than what it actually looks as a finished item. So these are just a few of the things that you will need, and there will be some other things that I will introduce as we go along, but I will let you know what they are. To give it stability, you will be using this piece of PVC, but you won't be using it flat, so you will need a heat gun or some method of heating this up. Now please don't use a flame because it will just melt it and ruin it. To be able to suspend it, I need to have this piece of plastic here underneath and then sitting on there, and then it will use that as its base to make it stable. So all I will do is I will heat this up like so, and you can kind of tell when it's getting ready because it will start to bend on its own, and there we go, it's starting to bend now. So what I'm going to use to stick this down is my glue gun, and I'm going to put quite a bit of hot glue on here, and it won't be seen at the end because the resin will be covering it, and also once the resin cures over it, it will also give it that extra bit of security as well. The same onto this as well. So then the cup is going to hang slightly there like that. To be able to work on this without it keep falling over, because if I don't, it's just going to fall over because it's top heavy. What I've got is I've got the PVC sheet here that I use to cut this little strip off to work with, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this saucer down onto this, and it'll give it a nice base to be able to work on. Now I will be able to take that off at the end, so that's not too much of a problem. So all I'm going to do is stick the glue here, pop that in there like that, hold that down till it sticks, and when I want to take that off, all I need to do is heat that glue up from the other side, and then it will just pull off, and then I can just clean the glue off the bottom of the saucer, which should come off fairly easily. Okay, so now I've been looking at this for a little while. I've decided that actually this is too high. So what I'm going to do is it doesn't matter, I'm going to cut it off in the middle and make it half as high. Here we go, I've cut it in half, and now all I need to do is I need to put that bit onto there and glue it on. And don't forget, everything I use today, I will put a link in the description too, so you can easily get hold of this stuff. And I'm happier now. So what I shall do is, I've got some resin mixed up. I've got a little pot here, and I'm going to put some sand into this little pot, like so. Okay, and then I'm going to pour some resin into that, mix it in, and then put it where I want it. So I just give that a mix round. I don't over put the resin in because I don't want it saturated or floating to the top. I just want it to act as a glue for this sand that I'm using here. And this is where you can start to cover up that base and the plastic. So I'm now happy with that and how that is sitting off. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put my little rocks on top of this around the edge. And I just got these stones out of my garden, to be honest. And I'll probably have some little stones going around the edge as well when it's finished. So the next thing that you need to do, once you've got your little rocks on there, because we will finish those little rocks off in a little bit, is pour some resin into this cup so it looks like it's going to overflow. Now, I'm not going to do this in one pour, because what I don't want it to do is the exothermic reaction is to heat up this cup too much and then crack it. So I will actually do this in a couple of pours. So the next bit is to make the water for the waterfall. And this is the first part of that process. Now, this is where the acetate comes in. So I've got the acetate on here on a piece of whiteboard, really, so you can, well, so you can see it, but also so I can move it around. And I've mixed up my resin. I'm not bothered with bubbles in it. And I'm literally just going to be pouring on like that. That'll be enough to start with. I'm just going to let that cure there. So we're starting to get there now. So this is all set in here. The resin has cured and so has the sand, and the rocks are now nicely in place. I did put some resin onto some of the rocks in different places because I wanted to make it look like the rocks were wet. So now what we need to do is just take this off the acetate, and it does just come off really, really easy. I will use this acetate again. So it's because it's quite thin, and this is what I like about it, you are able to bend it to the shape that you want. So I'm just measuring it up now so I know how big a bit to cut off, and I'm using my scissors to cut it. It's thin enough and it's flexible enough to be able to do that, and I'm just checking it up against here, placing a few dots on there so I make sure that I get it the right width. Now I'm using a permanent marker to mark on this, and if you do leave any black on it, it will just come off with a little bit of rubbing alcohol, which is great. So I'm now using good old UV resin to give it some texture, and I like UV resin because you can put some texture into it, for example with this lolly stick, and just go over it with the UV light. It cures it virtually straight away and it stays into that shape that you've made. And this is obviously, I want to make it look like it's water falling out of the cup and into the little pool below, and by doing this I'm able to do that. So I'm just giving it a quick cure. So I'm just topping up the cup now with its second pour and also the pool underneath. And the reason I did it in 2 pours is because I didn't want it to break because of the exothermic reaction. I didn't want to take that risk. I'm just popping all the little bubbles now that are around with my torch. So I'm getting towards the final stages of this waterfall, and I've got some resin here that I've had mixed up for about 20 minutes now. And so it's gone quite thick, and that's what I'm looking for, and I want to pop a tiny bit of white into that as well, but not much. And I'm using white pigment paste here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it around this top here. It's not cured yet, so I'm just bringing that into there as well to make it look a little bit more swirly. Okay, so what I'm just going to do now is I'm just going to put some bits on here. And I'm putting those bits on to make it look like frothy, splashy water as well. So now that's cured, I want to start making the pool look a bit more realistic. So I'm using some gravel and some fern that I've made from this mould. I'm just mixing a bit of UV resin, not too much, into this gravel so it coats the gravel. It doesn't actually saturate it. And then what I will do is I will pop this gravel around the edge, both on the outside and on the inside as well, with the UV resin over it. And then what that allows me to do is it allows me to put these bits where I want them, work for it as long as I like, and then go in and cure it before adding the Liquitex mold gel, which I will use to make it look far more as if the water is rippling and then flowing over the edge. And what you'll also see that I'll have used a little bit later, because this dries completely clear but it leaves a nice texture, I will add a little bit of white to the medium, to the gel medium, and then put it in where I want it to be looking particularly frothy. So where the water actually hits the pool at the bottom here, and where it's rolling out of the top of the cup, and it will look something very similar to what it looks like now, but this obviously will dry clear, where with a little bit of white in it won't. So it's starting to look a little bit more realistic now, and you'll be able to see what it looks like once the white paint goes into it. Now I'm just adding these ferns using a bit of UV resin again. So I'm just using this plastic stick to put a bit of UV resin on the back. I'm placing these little ferns where I want them to be, and then I will just use the UV torch and cure them. I'm not putting many around because I think too many would overdo it. I just want a few dotted in and around to give it realism. I'm really pleased how this came out. There is a lot of different steps to it, but actually it's worth it. I think with a light or something behind it, in the garden or in a rockery or somewhere like that, or even in the house, it would look great. And I made this for a special person called Kay, who's one of my subscribers and a really good friend. She often comments, or actually always comments on my videos. She's very supportive. She's great. Thank you, Kay, for all your support. And I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I look forward to seeing the one that you make as well. Additionally, I've just become a Patreon member, so if anybody would like to help me support this channel and get extra bits and pieces from Patreon, through me, then please check in the description below and it will show you how to do that. And any little bit helps as well. I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody's support and positive comments that I've had over the last year. The channel is really starting to grow now. I'm very, very grateful. So enjoy your resin. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please share my videos, hit the like button and leave me a comment. And if you've not subscribed, subscribe so you don't miss out in future videos. Speak to you soon.